Hello, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Premier League panel show. We are back in action after the international break. And what an international break that was. Actually, it wasn't that bad for Turkey, but anyway. We have our crew this week. Alan with Arsenal, Shay with Villa, and Alex is back from his 115 weddings of the year. Representing Fulham over here. A lot to talk about, obviously, because we were gone and kind of like a really busy and hectic weekend. But I think overall, I know, Shay, let's start with you. You have to be a happy man, so that's a guarantee right there. So we'll start with you. Are things like, how is the atmosphere as like Villa fans now? Because I know in the beginning it was kind of cautious. You never know. Now with the recent run, especially at home, does it look like, hey, man, we could maybe snag a Champions League knowing it's top 5?
I mean, we could. Like I said, we also got to worry about Europe. I mean, now Emery has to decide, do we keep pushing on with Europe or, finish in the league? But I think the team's finally gelling. Everybody's clicked. They've all bought in, and Ollie's finally up and running again. So it's good to see.
I mean, it's hard to generalize, but most fans, as Villa fans, is it like, hey, man, it's a trophy we want. We can win. You look at what West Ham did last year. Or, like, do you want that? Which one, as a Villa fan, do you want more? That or heading over to Champions League next year?
Man, I'll say a trophy. I haven't seen the team win anything, at least in my lifetime. Obviously, my dad growing up watching that, I've heard about it. I've watched the match, so I personally want to win something. So to see, for my generation, at least win some silverware. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Alan, let's go to you because I know Alex is not happy. So there's no surprise there. But are you happy to be able to drag a point out of that game? Or was it a game that you guys said it's Chelsea, we should be beating them?
Considering how poorly we started the game, I think 2-2 was fair. We did get to a point where if Eddie Nketiah scores that like amazing chance that he got, it's a victory for Arsenal. So we came close to winning it at the end. Happy. I'm not one to be extremely happy about a draw, but I'll be happy when it's a point after being down 2-0 for like a good portion of the game. So.
Yeah, I mean, I mainly watched like the second half, and really Chelsea's goalie really started that run for you guys. It felt like it was on cruise control until he made the game interesting, and then obviously they start backpedaling and stuff. Alex, I know you're not that happy. We were kind of like talking right before we went on air, hence we went on air late because we got caught in the conversation. But Fulham is like, where is the main issue? Is it going forward? Is it defending? Is it everything? Where are we at?
Yeah, it's in attack. I think there's been, losing Mitrovic and then not replacing him in a summer window when you kind of know he's going to go or could go, and then to not really replace him, and then to hear that Raul Jimenez, he was the replacement, did not instill a ton of confidence in fans going forward. I think it's been borne out so far this year. Big January window. I think the benefit is that there are at least 4 teams, probably 5, that Fulham are definitely better than. So relegation, unless the wheels totally come off, relegation's not in the cards, hopefully. But just kind of a weird year unless something happens in January.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about like the Everton ordeal a bit later on too. But yeah, I mean, we were talking about it in the morning show about like, Everton relegation and stuff like that. And I mean, there's like some other teams who are so bad that a below average team doesn't look that bad after all, kind of thing, like a team like Everton and stuff, because what you're going against in terms of. But that's when I think the January window, I mean, this time last year, I think we put Forest, I think everybody had put Forest away. Probably a lot of the people are putting Sheffield away right now. And then they kind of like came back and actually, I mean, we're almost like pretty comfortable at the end. Looking at the scores over here, Jay, obviously Liverpool on our end of things. I mean, that's a big game. It's a derby. And I know on paper, there's a huge difference between those teams. But with these games, you never know. And even then, when Sean Douche parks the bus with like 10 guys, it sometimes can be hard to open up. So I was happy to get the 3 points because regardless of the skill, I mean, over the years, that gap between those two teams, the local rivalry and stuff has gotten like wider and wider. But on a match day, it just does not matter somehow because the nerves kick in and the atmosphere kicks in and stuff like that. So 3 points was good to get. Shay, any scores over there that kind of like caught your eye and said, what the heck? Or like something that you did not expect?
I would have not expected this many red cards. I looked at the scores, I just saw nothing but reds the whole time. So I don't know what the rest are smoking that weekend. But honestly, Nottingham and Luton, like the fact that they actually drew. Like I know we've talked about early in the season that we threw Luton away, but
Yep.
here they are trucking along. They got 5 points. I would not expect that from them.
Yeah, and honestly, like 5 points, you're like 5 points, but then it looks pretty good on the ISO standing. 5 points is like a lot. How about you, Alex? Did you catch anything that caught your eye?
Yeah, Luton and Forest, obviously. I think Newcastle and Palace kind of have made the last however many years of just kind of hanging around. And the way you hang around in the Prem is you don't get beat 4-0 that often. So I'm a little surprised that scoreline got so out of hand, that might speak more to Newcastle and how the levels they're at now. And then Wolves, like I'm pleasantly surprised. Like good for them. Like at the beginning of this year, we were all like, "Oh, Wolves look really bad," and I think they're ahead of Fulham now. They might be at the 10th in the table or 12th in the table. So, yeah, kind of shocked to see them slowly creep their way out of the bottom.
I think that's like a great drama story there too. Like the guy who gets canned comes over there with a different team, and I mean he had to sleep really well that night. So I mean that has to feel good, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think the way he left, it was probably a bitter divorce at the least. So coming back to get that win, I'm sure was huge. How about you, Alan?
Luton Forest for me. I think Luton is showing why they can stick around in the Prem and stay up. They find ways to get these points, and it's not like Nottingham is a bad team comparatively. So Nottingham is a mid-table team at least this season. And I think Villa as well coming in and playing a really good West Ham team and getting 4 goals on them is impressive. So those are my 2 surprises.
I mean, looking at the standings now, I mean, things have changed a lot. Obviously, when we talked, God, man, I'm like, how long ago was that? It wasn't even that long ago where we looked at the standings and we're like, does Chelsea get out of the bottom? Does like United get out of the bottom? And somehow they've both come out of the bottom now and are in top 10, even though it is pretty darn tight in the middle of the table over there. Shay, we were talking before we went on air about the European tournaments, and obviously there's the Champions League, Europa this week. I mean, they started back up again. When you look, do you say, I mean, obviously starting with Villa, how it will affect you guys, but do you also look at these other teams and say, well, they're going to drop because they're in Europe, or Europe is going to help them, etc.?
I would say for Newcastle now, just especially with the Tonali going to be banned for 10 months, that's a huge miss for them. I mean, he's a class player. There's no denying it. So like that's going to be a big miss for them. How they persevere without him and continue on with Europe. I mean, I think did they play today? I don't think they did. I'm not sure if
they lost today at home to Dortmund, actually. So that huge win against PSG kind of went down.
Like you said, they had a little bit of a hangover in Europe. But I mean, like I said, if we win it, you end up moving to the Conference League. But then if they are not Conference, Europa. But if we end up in that top 4, or what do we say this year? They switched top 5, go to Champions League.
Top 5 for the Champions League.
Yeah, if we literally somehow finish 5th, like I mean, we get the automatic bump up and still win a trophy. So it would be a very successful year in my eyes, honestly. So
if you were a betting man, or if I gave you like 0 to 10, with 10 being a guarantee, 0 no way in hell, where do you put Villa in being in Champions League next year?
Like 80% at this point. I mean,
really?
Somebody clip it.
Yeah, I can see us finishing 5th. 5th or 6th is going to come down to a very tight race, and I can see us just kind of staying between those 2 spots. Yeah. So.
And do you base it? I mean, are you basing that off of being 5th, or are you basing it off of winning the?
Just current position, the way they've gone about the league. I mean, if you look at the table, like I said, look, 5 wins, or all points in the last 5 matches. So like he's got them rocking and rolling. Europe, like I said, we mess around a little bit, but the group that we're in is all tied. So if they end up winning it, it should be a fairly straightforward path. So it just depends on how serious the players want to take it. But I can see it's, like I said, finishing between 5 and 6, and I'll be a-okay with it if they win the trophy. So.
I mean, I think so. It would be like a huge step, obviously, right? I mean, from like where they were, and Newcastle. I don't know, that's kind of like an odd. It's a team that rides in waves. It feels like. I mean, today's loss was huge. And honestly, they were unlucky to lose at home. I mean, things were coming off the post left and right, especially towards the end of the game. But yeah, that's kind of hurt him after that huge win against PSG. A win today would have had him cruising in that group of death. And now, like, they're back to being third, I think, in the standings. How about Arsenal over there? Are you happy with where that team is at, or would Lego Head would rather be? I mean, are there points that are lost that you're like, man, we should not have lost those points?
Yeah, and not to disparage Alex and his the cottagers, but I think that's 2 points lost right there. Spurs, for sure, that's 2 points lost. Honestly, I think Chelsea was probably the worst match that we played, and then we still scrape by with a point there. I don't see that as 2 points lost unless I look at the Nketiah miss at the end of the game. But at the end of the day, he still missed a ball. Still missed a goal, and that's we would be 2 more points, so we would still have we'd be first right now. We still
So do you see since you said it's the worst game, when you look at the recent form and the recent game, regardless of the results, sometimes the results don't reflect play every single time. But do you feel like the team is getting better? The team is getting worse? Over
time, it's getting better, I think.
Okay. In which way?
In the fact that they're still finding ways to, get victories where they can. They found a victory against City, which, we haven't done in a while. Again, also at Everton, we go to Everton all the time. We lose lately, and we finally got, the victory there. We're finding our demons and, slaying them. It would have been nice to not started out Chelsea, super slow. We would have been in second right now if that was the case. So it is what it is.
Fair. That's fair. I think they won some games, and I mean the Achilles heel, especially last year towards the end, was not being able to win games that to win the title you got to win ugly as well, and they just were not able to do that, and they're doing that now.
Yeah.
How about your boys there, Alex? 13th right now. I mean, we kind of talked about it, but at least, there are some check marks next to those names over there. And with the teams at the bottom of the league, can you pretty much comfortably say relegation is not a huge concern?
I mean, I think especially we talked about Luton being better than we all thought. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Luton down there, Burnley down there, Bournemouth down there, United down there, and then Everton potentially facing a 12-point drop. I think it's fairly safe to say that Fulham, again, unless things fall off a cliff, that they're safe from relegation. Now, I think you look at the fixture list too, and it's the results, and it's kind of, I think this is about where Fulham fans would hope they are. I think we all cross our fingers and say a point a game keeps you up, and they're averaging better than that. So with who they played so far, to get a point off of Arsenal, to beat a scrappy Luton that's pulling results together, that's a typical banana peel game for a mid-table team. Is a Luton at home, they come in 11 guys behind the ball and just go for a 0-0 draw. So to get 3 out of games like that is important. I think, like I said, I've said all year long, Fulham's season will come down to what they do against Brentford, what they do against Forest, what they do against Everton. Heading into the year, I would have said what they do against Villa, but it looks like they're in a little bit different of a class. But no, it's it's those mid-table scraps. Now we can say maybe what they do against United and what they do against Chelsea. So it's those mid-table scraps that are really going to determine where Fulham sit in this. So no, I can't be too disappointed. It is what it is at some level, and would I like to see them above Scum, of course, but what are you gonna do?
I mean, I thought they would do better personally, but I don't get as many chances to see him. I did watch, like I said, the first half of the Tottenham game. It just feels like there's 8 goals scored, and that's, I think, the main issue. To me, it looked like, but at the same time, 15 goals considered is pretty a high number too. But I feel like the Fulham of the past, it seemed like, is it just the personnel changing? Was everything really going through Mitrovic? So when you took him out,
it's that, and the fact that there isn't a replacement of his quality that was brought in. So if you take Mitrovic out and you put somebody at that similar to that level in, that's okay. But Carlos Vinicius and Raul Jimenez are great, but they're not a Mitrovic replacement. I think we all saw that coming. And I will say the 15 goals allowed is tough. They had a red card to Brentford and a red card to City. And after those 2 red cards, that's 7 of those goals. So it's it has gotten inflated a bit, which goal difference does matter in a relegation fight. So hopefully we stay out of that. But yeah, that's the big disappointment is that nothing was done in the summer to shore up the weakness that everybody saw. And with Marco signing an extension, hopefully that means the January window, there's a little bit of faith in the front office. So we'll see.
I mean, I know when they, the word was, I mean, we even talked, I think, like when Mitrovic rumors were there, it was like, because I think when we did the morning show with you guys, we talked about it at the time. It was just like rumors at the time. Nothing was
like June, July.
And we were like, man, that could be like really destructive to the whole scheme. But I felt when Raul Jimenez was signed, I'm like, yeah, he's not going to bring that bully-like moves and stuff that Mitrovic does, but he might bring a different aspect to the game. Like, how was he initially received? And I guess how is he received now that, like, the production is a lot less?
Well, when he was initially came in, everyone was like, oh, it's a pretty good signing. Yeah, like, great. He'll be a great backup. This is going to be a good, shrewd move to get him from Wolves. And then when no other signing came in, people were like, wait, is this like the replacement for Mitro, or is he still a backup? And then when the window shut and there was no replacement, people were kind of like, oh, that was the replacement. Okay, that isn't ideal. People love him, and I think everybody's rooting for him. But, like, the dude has to put one in the back of the net. He had a really good chance against Spurs, and Vicario had a great save. But it was kind of right at him. And, again, put the ball in frame. That's all you can do. But as soon as he gets a goal, hopefully that opens the floodgates. People are rooting hard for him. I think everybody in football is. Everybody wants to see
because of the injury. I think so.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, a lot of like head nodding because I think because of the injury, we're all on the same page there.
Especially when Fulham play Villa, and especially when Fulham play Arsenal. Obviously, like we want to score so many goals in those games. But
that's all these guys will be rooting for. Really, a couple of Jimenez goals. That's all.
Hopefully one goes in.
Yeah.
Okay, you brought
one goal from Raul. I'll take that.
I'll say one thing too. I will feel fine if Raul gets revenge against Arsenal. For
clip it.
Another one. Better right.
Man, we got lots of them tonight.
Okay, so you mentioned that. So let's get to this. I am really interested in getting your guys' take on this one. As like fans from like different teams in the Premier League. Shay, let's start with you. You see this news. What was your like first initial thoughts the moment you see this headline and the news?
I mean, kind of shocking. Like the FA actually has some balls and is going to punish somebody for once. But I just looked it up while we're just talking. Like they've only done it once the entire time they've been around. It was against Portsmouth for 9 points. So
I was going to ask when the last Premier League.
That's the only time they've done it. And I mean, I know you're a Liverpool fan, but like Everton are one of the originals in the league. Like I'm fine with them getting relegated, but I don't want it to do what they did to Portsmouth, where they dropped basically to non-conference. Like one of the most consistent teams just disappear. But I mean, they broke the rules. Like we're still waiting for City to get punished, which we'll never see that happen. But this is showing that they at least will punish.
And I think. This is a conversation we have all the time on our podcast and stuff with like Liverpool, and it's kind of like a constant debate because it's really split. There are a lot of people who are Liverpool fans, and they still, as much as they enjoy Everton misery, they don't want the ultimate misery because it's also bad for the city. And for the sake of the city, they almost want them to stay up. And not to mention, they see it as a guaranteed 6 points. So who doesn't want that? But I mean, I think that, it's always split. I mean, to me, since I am not from Liverpool, I mean, in my eyes, the bigger rivalry and the game that I kind of makes me nervous and makes my stomach hurt a few days before the game is the United game. But I know for most, obviously, I mean, we have like Kazi on our podcast who is from Liverpool, who would like put Everton in conference if he had to, like whatever. He would put him in like a Spanish third division if he left to him. But I mean, I know, overall, it's kind of like broken up in terms of like if they want Everton gets relegated or not. And honestly, I mean, before we even go further, this is basically demanding. This is almost like looking at what the prosecutor wants in a case, and they're like, they hang him, and then they might get 3 years and parole, 90 days or something like that at the end. So let's get that straight. This is not the punishment. This is what they're asking for. As a Fulham fans, this is like why it's interesting to get your guys' take. You see the headline. What's the first thought that comes into your mind?
The first thought is I kind of forgot what they even did. And then, wait, didn't City do something too? So that's the first thought is kind of like, It's just like in college football where Alabama breaks a big rule and then they announce that Kent State has had 10 scholarships suspended, and you're like, wait, what?
Well,
you
this
know,
fan
like,
here, trust me, I went through
yeah,
it.
let's go punish the little guy. We can't. Let's go punish the little guy. We can't punish the big guy. So it's nice to see a team kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I go with that of like, good, someone broke the rules and there should be punishment for that. And I also go to say, look, as fans of teams, like, I shouldn't wish misery upon Everton fans because I would not want that for myself and my team and my club. So there's a way to commiserate with fan bases and say, this really sucks. You didn't do anything to cause this. While also saying like, hey, these are rules are in place for a reason. And every club is skirting them however they can. And when it's so brazen, that's when things actually need to happen. Because then what's the point of having these rules? Let it be a free for all at that point. You know.
Alan, where are you at with that? Because this is going to be fully different. I'm more like Alex is probably the closest to what I thought the moment I saw this. But Alan, let's go with you.
Personally, I can't get too upset at Liverpool getting, or not Liverpool. Sorry,
don't be bringing that.
Whoa!
I can't get upset at Everton's case here. It's just that it sucks because they're hemorrhaging money, and I guess they're mismanaging it. But how. From what I understand, if they get relegated, if they were going to get relegated last year, they would have faced administration. And so now what we're going to do is punish them even further with 12 points and almost a guaranteed of relegation. And then instead of helping them with their, I looked it up right now and it's over 300 million in the last 3 years that they've lost. Like if they go down to the championship, they're going to lose even more money that way.
I said it'll be Portsmouth 2.0 though.
Yeah. It'll just be worse. They'll end up, they'll for sure end up in administration at that point. And, for the city of Liverpool in general and for Merseyside, I don't think that's a good thing. Relegation is relegation, right? Relegation happens. If you're bad, you're bad. You go down. I'm okay with that. But if you go bad because the league is like, you are broke, and we're going to sanction you with 12 points instead of, trying to find a way to help you with, the millions of revenue money or billions of revenue money that we make, then that's shame on the league and on the FA, and shame on them for not going after teams like City as well.
Yeah. Well, I wonder too, like how they got so bad. Like, did the stadium bleed them dry that much? Like, is that stadium worth that much money for them to go through this panic? Like, I don't think Goodison Park was that bad.
Right.
And then I did see, I don't know if y'all saw that, like, I think their owner did die like a couple weeks or a couple days ago too. So like they're going through all kinds of crap right now. So
Which
not a good time.
Shiri, who was that?
Or no, the
Kenwright, I believe is his last name. He was the
chairman or somebody like that.
The chairman,
pretty big.
Yeah.
Well, and I do agree with you, Alan, that like, sporting merit, and so having a team be relegated not on the field sucks. But then if you're, let's say you're a Bournemouth fan, and you're going, okay, well, hold on a minute. We have a stadium that has seats 10,000, and so we are playing in two different universes financially than even in Everton, who's been really struggling. And so we're trying to do it the right way, and we're with our limited resources. And then just because Everton over here pisses away all their cash on whatever they are spending money on, and I'm doing it the right way, and then you come along and say, actually, no, let's like protect Everton, which to be fair, I don't want to see a club get relegated for nothing. I'd be pissed if I'm a Sherry's fan. I'd be pissed. I'd be like, hold on a minute.
Yep.
We're cheating too. Everyone's cheating, but we're cheating only a little bit, and they're cheating a lot. So this isn't right. I don't know. It's tough to be a bottom of the table team right now. It's tough.
And I think that was my reaction when I first see it. The first thing I think of is that's great. City gets away with 114 or whatever the allegations they had. Yeah. And, paperwork was just, people went to the embassy and stuff like that. And I think that's the difference between, and this is why you don't want a country owning a club, because when you go to City, if this is 12 points, City would be going to the Spanish third division probably. They would punt them away that hard for the number of allegations that they're alleged to have, committed. So, but now it becomes a UK and Qatar, whichever country, it becomes like an international politics kind of thing instead of just being a club kind of thing. But yeah, that's what I wonder, what you guys thought the first thing, because the first thing I thought when I saw the headline, and every Liverpool fan I'm sure did, because on our Discord channel, that was the first comment from everybody saying like, "Oh, that's great. So City can do whatever the hell they want, but they're gonna go after Everton for one violation, and they're gonna say they want 12 points."
I can't imagine it's going to be 12. I can't.
No,
I think
I
it'll
don't
be
think
3 or
it's
6 probably.
To be
You
honest,
know,
I don't even.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I mean, if you think about it, and I think we were talking about this in the morning show. I mean, doesn't even matter if it was 3. It's, I mean, obviously not as damaging as 12, but you
No.
take away 3 points when a
Yeah.
team that has only gotten 7 out of 9. That's a kick in the balls by
Yeah.
itself. I honestly don't think there'll be any points at the end.
Yeah.
There'll be some good imaginary accounting or a good defense put together, and they'll pay a fine or they'll do this or something like that. But I mean, yeah, it has been a club. I mean, really, when you look at money spent in the transfer season, they're usually in the top. I mean, you would not tell from performance though. Go ahead, Alex.
That's why a club, speaking from Fulham, I'm sure other clubs, Bournemouth might send, Forest obviously not, I don't hear why, but Fulham are sitting here going, hold on a minute, we have curbed spending the last several years overall because we know we're uptight on FFP. The relegations and promotions, you get a bunch of money from promotions, but relegating is it's a pretty serious thing. And so we've had this summer, one of the reasons that they say we haven't brought a lot of money in and we need to sell Mitro was to make sure we're on the right side of that. So teams are going, well, hold on, we haven't spent money because we wanted to actually stay on the right side of this. And the team that doesn't even get it, they shouldn't be in the league. And so if you're a team that got relegated because Everton stayed up, you're sitting there going, well, what are we doing here? So I get the frustration from other relegation rival teams. It's tough.
Yeah, because I mean, it goes back to, well, you should have planned better, kind of a thing, like a bankruptcy hearing. But they have wasted money, and we don't want. I think because as fans, we can feel the pain of other fans, right? If your points get deducted, and that's why you're going down. It's one thing to go down for sucking on the pitch or not taking care of your opportunities, and you're like, man, shit happens. It's soccer or whatever. You look at it that way, but going down just off of a punishment would be a lot more painful. I wouldn't wish it on any fan base. Well,
so they did get
maybe United or somebody.
They'd be
maybe
at
Chelsea.
-5 right now. So that is a
they would be minus
a hard hill to climb up.
And might as well throw the towel in. And I think one thing we talked about is like this morning we were discussing this a lot in the morning show, and like Leicester City when they went down, I think we all kind of saw them bouncing right back up. Right? When Fulham has gone down, because of how they managed their squad, you almost saw them bouncing right back up in most cases because you knew they would be able to keep the core and they wouldn't have to blow it up just because they got relegated. I think with Everton's case, and they're still in that. I mean, if they get relegated, it's already a poor squad, and you're probably going to end up losing Pickford. You're going to lose Onana and stuff like that. You're going to lose a couple of your semi-decent players. So you might not bounce right back up. But having said all that, Shay, if you look in that crystal ball, do you see anything happening to Everton out of this? And do you see anything ever coming out for City down the road?
City, probably not, just because they're just been getting away with it for so long. Everton, I feel like they will get punished, but I think the 12 is just way too harsh, like we were just discussing. Because like I said, that they do that's going to ruin that entire club. Like I said, leaving it up to an independent panel, so maybe they'll have some fans that are kind of like us, like everybody in England, football fans. So they're going to have somebody that have a little bit of compassion, or if they get a bunch of people that are true Liverpool fans, it's over. You just say goodbye. But it's a tough one, so we'll see. Then, like I said, they haven't playing the best, but they're maintaining. If they were literally like Sheffield at 1 point, then it wouldn't matter at that point. So it would suck for them. But.
How about you, Alex? What is your prediction coming out of this?
I mean, I really do think they're going to get some sort of deduction. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure from mid and lower table teams that are going to say, look, we try to do things the right way, and you tell us this is what we're supposed to do. We're already playing with half a deck compared to a club with the commercial and other rights as Everton. They spent well beyond their means. If the data and the evidence shows that these guys have been spending well beyond their means, knowing that they were spending too much money, in an effort to stay up and compete and whatever. And now they're in this position. It's a lot of clubs, probably a majority of clubs, are going to say they made their bed. And, if there's no punishment for this, if there's no legitimate dissuasion to do this again, what is going to stop a Villa? Let's say Villa overspends and is in this similar position and we just get away with it. So there's got to be some punishment. 3 or 6 points probably. I bet you there, if the evidence is what they say it is, I bet you there'll be a. And City, God only knows. It's been too long already.
Does Lego Heads give like City secrets away while he's at Arsenal now, or no?
Probably.
Yeah, he doesn't have a shake behind him, so it doesn't matter what kind of secret. It doesn't work like that. But so, do you think Everton gets anything out of this? Even up on City at this point, but
yeah, I think they'll get something out of it. I hope it's not 12, but I think after if Alex does make some good points, it should be something, but it shouldn't be 12 in my opinion. It probably should be like 6.
Yeah, 12 does seem peak, and you almost feel like it's like a negotiating ploy, right? Like they ask, they want 3 to 6. We're like, we'll ask 12, we'll get 3, kind of a deal. But so let me ask you guys this though. I mean, Arsenal, I guess it would be close. As a Liverpool fan, obviously, I mean, we laugh it off, but the whole City thing is really freaking annoying because there've been so many seasons now where under normal conditions, with everybody being on the same level playing field, Liverpool will be running away with the title. A couple of seasons where they've ended up losing titles, and we talk about this all the time, and I say this, as fans, we live for moments, right? So even if something happens to City now and they, void those titles and they give it to Liverpool and stuff, that shit doesn't matter anymore. We had the disappointment last day of the season, and we had that disappointment. You don't get those back, and you don't start re-celebrating those titles and stuff. You might be happy that justice got served, but you lose those moments as a fan. I mean, obviously, it pains a Liverpool fan a lot more and aggravates and annoys and frustrates a lot more with all the shadiness because it seems, at least to us, very freaking blatant, and it's happening right in front of our eyes. So a team that's not in a title chase and maybe doesn't get as directly affected, Shay, what is the level of frustration on that? Because I find that interesting to kind of gauge. Because I'm sure, as Villa, Villa is not, Villa is an established club and they spend a lot of money as well. Obviously, nothing compared to the other ones. But I would think as a team, you're already man, you already have freaking all this money and resources, and you got to cheat on top of it too. Is probably what I would assume. But how do you approach that?
Well, I was thinking City, they came in with a lot of money and they did it before the league was like, hey, we need to put a semi-salary cap on it. Otherwise, they would have just completely ran away. And they brought the right players in. I'll give them that. They at least bring in the correct players compared to United, who just spends on just absolute dross.
Yeah.
But they just get away with it because they've won so much. For us, we were almost in financial play even after we sold Jack for $120 million. We still had to pay off all the debts that we incurred in the championship. When we won the playoff, we got whatever the $350 million, but we couldn't spend it all right away. We had to spend within the limit of, hey, you're a newly promoted team. You can't just outright blow it, even though our owners are the top 5 in the country or in the league.
Yeah.
So we get, how I was saying, we get punished for being where we are in our stage of our development, even though we have the funds to back it up. But then you see United and City, and here's Chelsea basically moneyballing the hell out of the league. We're going to sign all these players on a 10-year contract because, soccer players last that long. It's an American football or NBA. But even then, they got away with it. It somehow was in the fine print. I give Todd Bowley and his lawyers, they are really, really good because they somehow got away with it. And the league's let's not do that anymore. No long-term contracts in the sense that they can't be 5 years or more. Chelsea's still pushing that button. Every person that they're going to sign is going to be on a 5-year deal no matter what. And that's to say they're going to play with it. So it's just, like Alex said, if Bournemouth tried to do that, they would get in massive trouble. They don't have the funds to give somebody a 5-year deal. And even if they do, they're not going to be able to pay them what these big 6 teams are able to do. So it's tough. There needs to be somewhere where
fans listening today, they got a lot of love. They got a lot of love.
There needs to be a median for all this. They got to put a cap on it, truly, to make it more fair. Because then you say City is going to just keep running away with it until they get bored of it and stop putting money into it. And I don't see that going to stop anytime soon.
I don't either, because it doesn't feel like. I mean, when we talk about some of these owners, I mean, you look at Liverpool's ownership. I mean, even United's ownership. I mean, they spend money. They like you said, they just waste money. Look at what Everton has done. But I mean, ultimately, it's still a business for some of these owners. I don't get that sense in like City or Newcastle. They're not doing it for investment. They're not doing it for returns. This is more like pet project. If we won the lottery and we were like, you know what, I'll just go buy that club and then have some fun with soccer. I mean, that's basically what it is. We would have to really win the lottery to buy one of these guys, but I think to them it's just playing with money. So there is no, and you don't give up on your hobbies. So yeah, they will keep doing it year after year probably until. But when you say salary cap, do you mean a hard salary cap, or do you mean actually enforced rules as opposed to?
Well, I mean, I don't want it to be like the MLS. Like, I think the MLS salary cap is what's hindering the league so much because truly, like, I saw the whole Messi mania stuff. They're like, oh, Messi getting paid this, and the rest of them aren't getting paid anything. I was like, I get that, but that's how the championship works, how League One works too. Like, these guys are professionals making that money. You have to earn your way up. But salary cap in the sense, like, hey, you can't spend $250 million in one summer transfer window when all these teams can maybe spend only 50. Like, do a hard cutoff. Like 120 is it. Do what you got to do. That's still a bunch of money. Like, you could buy 2 or 3 players within your $120 million budget. I think that's a fair amount. Or like whatever the money that the most lowest team gets, bar Luton. Like, I know this year they put all their money into the stadium because it wasn't fit for the Premier League. So like they had to basically fix the facilities and not buy any players. So like whatever the 3 promotion teams get, they get a bunch of money. It's still like over 100 plus. Like basically say that's what the whole league gets. Spend it, and then at least it gives you an opportunity for those teams to at least catch up. So if City wants to buy one player for 120, cool, that's it. The rest of the teams can use their money better and make 5 transfers if they really wanted to.
See, that's like an interesting take. So I would not personally want that, for example, because I feel like that opens the door when you do a set, because then you get NBA like bullshit. True. Where you get people who are like, oh, that's fine, I'll take less money. And then, like another loophole on the outside to go around it. I will be afraid of that.
Chelsea will find a way. So, like, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly.
There's gonna be some loopholes.
As long as, like, the ratio of what you're getting in to what you're spending, because it should be. I mean, it is fair for a team that's bringing in more money to be spending more money. They should be, because I'm paying you more, so you should be investing more. As long as that ratio is the same and it is enforced. I mean, the rules are there, they're just not enforced, and there's way too many loopholes.
Technically, we have that rule, they just don't enforce it.
Yeah, exactly. But how about you, Alex? Like, as somebody looking from outside in, how do you take the whole the City ordeal?
I mean, it is tough because Fulham had they spent like 120 million pounds when they came up in 17, 18, 19, when they beat Villa in the playoff. John Terry made him cry, and they came up. They spent like 120 million pounds, and then they went down, and that financially crippled the club for several years. And so it's rich for me to hear City or whoever can spend, and Chelsea can spend all this money year after year after year, no matter how much money they're bringing in. One window can cripple Fulham for a couple of years, and we're just now getting out from under the yoke of that. And like, oh, FFP might be okay next year from that year. And then to see this happen, other teams like, well, this isn't the same rules. And I think a root of it, beyond like putting a cap on stuff, a root of it is how they even just account for it. So when you buy a player for 100 million pounds, it's amortized over the course of that contract. So then the price that goes into your FFP calculations is whatever the contract length, whatever you paid, split up by that many years. But the problem is when you sell a player, that counts immediately up front. So if you're buying and selling players for exorbitant numbers, the amount that is going to count for you at FFP and keep you above water, it just increases that gap so much. If you buy a player for $2 million, amortize it, whatever, it's $2 million a year or a 5-year contract. If you do 5 years, if it's 3 years, it's $3 million pounds a year, and you sell a player for 10, the delta there is so different than if you sold a player for 100 and bought a player for 100. It just exacerbates the difference between it. So one suggestion I heard is just, if you sign a player, that money is that window. You don't amortize it. it is done. You spend 100 million, and that counts towards your FFP. You're not allowed to spread that out over the length of the contract. It is done, and that holds teams a little bit more to account of like, you can't have one big splashy window and then sell one player and all of a sudden you're done, you're good, because that's how you get in a situation where you have one enormous buying window and then you kind of have to make up for it for the next 3 or 4 years. Do you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would definitely help justify some of the stuff and do the calculations, but I think the core of the problem still goes back to is the loopholes of how you can show income. I mean, I kind of like left you to the last, Alan, because I mean, Arsenal obviously traditionally they do have the funds to be able to spend, but at the same time, if they wanted to be shady and there was some shady money coming in, I mean, they could always say, I don't know, like, oh, we got a Lego sponsorship for Arteta or something. And, they're giving us like 150 million. That's where this guy's money is coming from. I mean, that's what City is doing, really, right? I mean, they're saying, hey, oh yeah, this guy is giving us 10 times more than what they're giving Villa for like a little thing on our shorts. Well, why? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? But well, I don't know. They're just giving it. And that's the problem I have with it is you can really show fake money coming in because it's your other company giving. I mean, you're basically giving yourself money. You're sponsoring yourself. And I don't know if they will ever get ahead of those. But, I mean, I don't think Arsenal is doing any of that stuff. But I know you like this Lego thing, so I'm sure you'll run it by them. But how do you, like, as an Arsenal fan who obviously now competing, now you guys are competing with this fake money scheme that they got going over there. I feel like it hurts more the closer you get to it. It's like the sun. So where do you stand with it as an Arsenal fan?
I mean, as an Arsenal fan, like it sucks seeing like teams like Chelsea and City just go in and spending all the money that they can. I mean, with Chelsea's case is not that big of a deal recently, at least, because they spent it recklessly and their owner is a freaking moron. But then you got City's case, who, they inflate the numbers, they cook the books to do whatever they can to, bring in whoever they can to make sure that Pep is happy. Like even when they didn't have Pep, like they went crazy on the spending, but they didn't go like to out now just buy out the best players in the league or in the world. But I think with Arsenal and the Kroenkes have forced Arsenal. Well, I mean, Arsenal in general has always been a club that is self-sustaining. They work within their means. They work with it. They usually the transfer budget is set by.
I mean, don't say they live in my foot. Alex is looking at by like, you know what? Your means are a lot different than my means.
And you can almost accept that. I can almost accept that. Like Arsenal, Spurs, they're a bigger club. I get it. But
I mean, during like the years after they built the Emirates, the club wasn't really making much money, and the Kroenkes could have easily put in, because they were, I think, minority owners back then. They could have helped out and splashed the cash and helping the team get better, but they had to sell players over time. They had to deal with it. They dealt with the fact that they didn't have money, and to see City just outright just spend money like it's nothing, like it's toy for them, like you said, like for them it's a pet project. It's nation building for them. It's sports washing for them. Like for Arsenal, it's it is what it is. The Kroenkes have multiple billions of dollars, but Arsenal works within itself. They'll ask for reinvestments in the loans that they have, but that's it. It's all loans from the Kroenkes. It's not actual money that they give the club.
I think that's an issue, though. Like, that's why, I'm glad kind of they stopped the Chelsea bleeding before it got even worse, but they probably should have acted earlier, just because they're reckless in spending the money. I think either way, if they're spending the money, if it's against the rules, regardless of how stupid you are with the money. Because, when City was doing it and they were not necessarily winning right away, it kind of like was not. I mean, it should have been an issue then, because I feel like, when Chelsea turns around and all these guys that they signed for a bazillion just and does play well, then people are going to be like, oh, yeah, but they did this. It should be an issue now when they're doing it, not when they, pull it off and get successful with it, because it's shady, even if it's stupidly spent initially. But let's take a look ahead and see who City is playing. No, let's take a look and see what we're looking forward to. Arsenal, Sheffield United. Is that a guaranteed win, or is that a trap coming after?
It's probably a trap, if I'm going to be honest. After coming off a good victory yesterday against Sevilla, who everyone thought Arsenal was going to struggle against, especially after losing to Lens, they're probably looking at Sheffield and looking over it and thinking we got Newcastle afterwards. I hope not. I hope that they actually come to the challenge and win. I think they will, but I can see it easily as a trap.
I tried hard to put the entire schedule, but give me your ups. You know what? Let's go around first, and then we'll come back with the upset specials on what you guys got going for it. Okay, so moving down the line over here, Brighton, Fulham. That looks like a tough one there, but they will have played obviously tomorrow, so that's a slight advantage, I think. Or how big of an advantage is that?
Yeah, that's a little bit of an advantage, a little bit of a kind of notch in Fulham's column. I think Fulham would love to recreate what happened last time Fulham went down there at the Amex, and absolute smash and grab from Manor Solomon to steal all 3 points. I think that would be excellent. I think a point is great. Take a point on the road and you win at home, and you're doing all right. So I think the struggle, like the whole year until a striker comes in, is where is the goal going to come from? Fulham's defense has been passable, except for the games they've the first 3 or 4 matches they finished with 10 men, and that's where a lot of the goals came from. So the defense has actually not been terrible, and if they can eliminate the ridiculous mistakes against Spurs where they gave it away, they can give it a game. But we'll see. And I think Brighton coming off a loss this past, I forget who they lost to this past weekend, but they lost this past weekend. I can't remember who it was, but so it's definitely a game,
right? Didn't they lose to City?
Was it City? Yeah, they I think
City.
City had a red card too. But yeah, no, it's a game that Fulham can look at and go, hey, we can get something from this. But someone's got to score,
So at this point, is it more like I hope these guys pick up form, or everybody's just looking at the calendar waiting for January as a Fulham fan?
I mean, a lot of it is waiting until January and trying to pick up results, bank as many points as you can. I hated when I think it was Sean Dyche said that when he was with Burnley last time up. It was November and he was talking about banking points. People were like, "Oof, that's pretty dire." And now I know what that feels like. I know exactly what that feels like. So, but no, I think we're waiting until January for any reinforcements and just hoping to kind of stay above water until then.
To be fair, that's Sean Douche in a heart.
Yeah, really, it was dire. Yeah.
I mean, that watching, I would never. And we've talked to in one of our morning shows, we talked to a Burnley fan, and even he was like, it comes to a point where you just want your club to play, and the results are great and stuff, but even if you go to the stadium to support your team and play some ugly ass soccer, you grab a point. I mean, he was saying, that works 1 day, 2 days, but not on a consistent basis. We're like, how the hell with this? Can we just play? I'm okay with not getting points. I just want to watch my team play, kind of a deal.
And that's what Fulham have done under Marco is they're playing, they're just not scoring. So they're playing well, they're not scoring. So,
but I think, as a fan, obviously it's easy, for me to say, when you're not fighting for relegation or whatever, a point is a point, kind of a deal. But I would rather have my team play, and I understand you can't be too brave at times. You got to be smarter than braver. But overall, if your scheme is always just parking the bus, that has to get old after a while. So, well, here's another. Is that a trap game or at home Villa? That's the guarantee we can bank on it.
I mean, I want to be confident bank on it, but Brighton, we have to play tomorrow against AZ Alkmaar. So, depending on how that match goes, hopefully everyone comes out healthy, and then we come in and get another easy win. But
I haven't paid attention to how much rotation does Emery do? I have not really paid
very little.
Very little. Okay.
That's the only reason I say very little. And which I've said I've talked on this earlier. We don't have the depth either, so it's not really up to him at this moment. We have a lot of injuries and one backup striker, so it's just we got to roll with it at this point. So hopefully,
I was going to say, is that more lack of options or lack of confidence he has in certain players?
Just lack of options. Literally, our backup is a 19-year-old kid from the MLS, and he's come on and scored 2 goals. He's got it's all untapped potential, but you can't trust a 19-year-old kid who's never played
Yeah, that's true.
that many games to lead the line. And then, like I said, losing Tyrone Mings definitely hurt. And Diego Carlos is like 50-50. So we've been rolling with the same 11 for the last like 4 weeks. So I'm sure that rest was very needed after whatever
The
last game we played.
copy-paste
So
lineups. Liverpool, Nottingham Forest. I mean, I worry as a lifestyle, so no game is a guarantee. And I really, like, as a team, Liverpool, I feel like the team gets up and plays better. Like, when we played Villa, it felt like, they played better because it was Villa and it was a better team coached by Emery, as opposed to, I worry more about like a Liverpool against Forest, Liverpool against Luton Town and stuff, just because I'm afraid that we're going to play down to the level and then, concede a stupid goal and then never be able to get underneath it. But having said that, I think there'll be a lot of rotation tomorrow's lineup, and then they will get the win against Forest on the weekend. I feel like there's a lot of options now in front that we didn't have before. So you can kind of change up your styles. Like if something isn't working, you can throw Nunes on there and be like, go crazy on people. And then, he creates something. And you have a midfield who can actually create and help scoring, in like Szoboszlai and McAllister and Gravenberch and stuff like that. So let's go for the win on that one. So the match of the week is probably the United City game there on Sunday. Let me get a prediction for you guys for that game, and then your upset special. Alan, let's start with you on this.
I'm going to it's going to be double for me, the upset special and the prediction here.
Oh, wow.
United come in and win 2-1.
Really? Hey, I'm all for it, even though it is United. Like, I would feel dirty, but I'd be okay,
I feel dirty saying it. I hate United.
Alex, what do you have?
It's a weird slate of games. I think if I had for that game, I think City are going to come in and beat them. I think United, they are. It feels like United are just not allowed to have a lot of good things happen to them recently, just the universe. And I think that, especially coming after the dramatic win in Europe, the win over the weekend, I think it's going to kind of come crashing down. And if you follow United's story, like what better place for that to happen against City at Old Trafford? Like it just kind of writes itself. So I feel like City's going to come in and just do one over on them. And I think upset though, I'm looking at Wolves. I think Wolves are going to get something out of this Newcastle match, playing at home. I wouldn't be shocked if they won, but I'd probably say a draw and get a point out of it. I have a better feeling about Wolves than a lot of other teams. A lot of these games are kind of just meh games. If you look at them, they're, I don't know, Chelsea-Brentford, I guess, is a West London derby, but I don't know. Yeah, Wolves over Newcastle. Wolves to get something from Newcastle.
That's a good shot, actually. It would be interesting to see how Newcastle responds to today and how they show up over the weekend. But Shay, what do you have?
I like Alex's predictions. I want to see United always suffer, even though I'm not a big City fan either. But Harry Maguire been voted the player of the match last 3 matches. We can't let his confidence get built back up. All right, bring the fridge back down.
Yeah,
I need him to start and then just get absolutely dominated. But to see them lose at home would be honestly hilarious. They have been, pulling it out lately. And I do like that Wolves Newcastle. Like you said, I think Wolves may pull it off. Yeah. We'll see how Newcastle responds after losing today. It's a pretty big matchup in midweek. So
I actually find it odd that Spurs are playing on Friday after playing Monday, by the way. I just noticed.
Good.
That's a good one.
Right. So my actually,
Well, no, you're up, I guess. So
I do my homework. Not really. I just noticed it. But so I feel like it would be. I'm going with Crystal Palace to get something out of that game. It is a tough place to go and play. Friday makes it even trickier, I think, especially for Spurs coming out of that Fulham game, which that was by no means like an easy game for them. So I feel like Palace can get something. Wolves is definitely a good shot. And I do sadly agree with Alex and Shay over here. Yeah, Alan says, let's hope it ends in a draw. I hate both those blade teams. Same here. But it does have, this is the kind of game that, I can see exactly what you guys are saying, where United comes crashing down to reality. And, Haaland gets a hat trick and they just beat the hell out of them like 5-1 or something like that. In the past, especially when Ole was there, even when United sucked, they've always given City a lot of grief and stolen points from them. I just
Yeah.
don't see it right now. I mean, City is not the same City by all means that it was, but yeah, I mean, is Maguire gonna cover Hollins? That ain't happening.
I mean, that's a matchup I would love to see. You know, I think the people want to see that matchup.
I want to see that.
Just pure entertainment. This is the most beautiful league in the world. That's what I want to see. Harry Maguire, Erling Haaland.
A bridge troll versus like an actual giant. Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, that's kind of a game where I cannot lose, and probably I cannot win. But yeah, I can't lose because if United wins somehow and gets the points away from City, it's a win. I just don't want a City 1-0 win though, because that doesn't do me any good. If they're gonna win, they better beat the shit out of United, so I can at least enjoy some United misery to go with my point disappointment for City. But it should be a good game, and it's Sunday by itself. Afterwards, well, I guess we'll miss the beginning of it with the Liverpool game, but that should be like a good game to watch overall. I do agree with what Alex was saying though. Not a lot of like juicy, exciting matchups this weekend. It looks like all lopsided. It will be huge upsets if the other team does something kind of matchups, but sometimes that's what makes it a bit more interesting. Alan is asking Alan if you're driving. Alan is over there. Alan, this could be a huge RV for all we know, where he's constantly driving that thing around.
It's always an RV. It's an RV that I drive through the city all the time.
Well, that's it for us this week. We'll be back same time, same place. We will have a couple of newcomers actually too, so it's going to be an even bigger panel. We got a couple of new clubs being represented, so it should be some good fun times coming up over here. As always, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and we will see you guys next week. Take care.